Toolkit for Green Awareness Campaign. Activity title: Green Awareness Campaign. Objective of the activity: to encourage creativity and teamwork for participants to design an environmental awareness campaign. This activity aims to help young people understand the importance of environmental education and learn how to effectively communicate complex issues to their communities. Activity description: in this activity, participants will work in groups to design a campaign to raise awareness about environmental issues affecting a community in a post-war context. Each group will select a specific issue, e.g. water pollution, deforestation, plastic waste, and develop messages, visual materials, and a plan to disseminate their campaign. At the end, the groups will present their campaigns to the rest of the team. Materials needed: small cards, paper or blackboards for sketching messages, markers, colored pencils and other drawing materials, internet access, if possible, for research and inspiration, mobile devices or cameras, optional if you want to record videos or take photos for the campaign, print or digital examples of environmental campaigns to showcase for inspiration. Duration of the activity: 60 to 75 minutes. Group size: groups of 3 to 5 people. Step-by-step instructions. Introduction: 10 minutes. Start by explaining the importance of environmental awareness and the impact a campaign can have on changing attitudes and behavior. You can show examples of effective campaigns so that participants understand how messages are communicated clearly and persuasively. Group formation and topic selection: 5 minutes. Divide participants into groups of 3 to 5 people. Each group should select a specific environmental issue they want to address in their campaign. Examples of issues include water pollution, deforestation, waste management or biodiversity loss. Research and brainstorming: 15 minutes. Groups briefly research their topic and brainstorm key messages for their campaign. What do they want people to know? What action do they want to promote? They can think of slogans or powerful phrases to grab the attention of their audience. Materials design: 20 minutes. Each group designs the materials for their campaign, which may include posters, leaflets, social media posts, or scripts for a video. They should choose images, colors, and messages that are visually appealing and effective. If they have access to the internet, they can search for reference images or inspiration for their designs. Creating the outreach plan: 10 minutes. Once the materials are ready, groups should think about how they would disseminate their campaign. Where would they place the posters? How could they reach more people in the community? Would they use social media, a community event, or some other means? Presentation of the campaigns: 10 to 15 minutes. Each group presents their campaign to the rest of the participants, explaining the issue they chose, their key messages, the materials they designed, and their dissemination strategy. The other groups can ask questions or comment on the clarity and effectiveness of the messages. Reflection and closure: at the end of the activity, facilitate a brief discussion with questions such as: how do you think an awareness campaign can influence people's behavior? What difficulties did you encounter in trying to simplify the environmental problem into clear and attractive messages? What did you learn about the importance of environmental education and awareness? Stimulating evaluation: impact feedback and voting. For a more stimulating evaluation, you can hold a creative vote and ask each group to give impact feedback to other teams. Voting in categories: 5 minutes. Each group can vote for other groups' campaigns in specific categories in order to recognize effort and creativity. The categories can be: most impactful campaign, the campaign that best captures attention and raises awareness; most creative campaign, for the campaign with the most original design or message; clearest and most effective campaign, the campaign that communicates the message in the clearest and most easily understood way; campaign with the best dissemination plan, to the campaign with the most well-thought-out and realistic dissemination strategy. Each group places its vote in secret, and at the end, the facilitator counts the votes to recognize the winners in each category. This encourages appreciation of peer-to-peer work. Impact feedback: 5 minutes. In addition to voting, each group should give positive and constructive feedback to another group, commenting on which parts of their campaign they found most impactful and how they could improve. This stimulates collaboration and mutual learning. Activity variance: To make it more dynamic, groups can present their campaigns at different stations, and the rest of the group can rotate to see them one by one, like in an exhibition. If the group has access to mobile devices and social media, they can run a real digital campaign and measure the impact on their networks. Tips for the facilitator. Encourage creativity and help groups to simplify their messages so that they are clear and effective. Provide access to resource materials and examples of campaigns to inspire participants. If the group has no previous experience with campaigns, spend a couple of extra minutes at the beginning explaining the key elements of an effective campaign: message, audience, media, etc. Evaluation method. Evaluation is based on impact feedback between groups as well as voting in the different categories. The facilitator can also evaluate the clarity and creativity of the messages and the cohesion of the materials created, taking into account each group's presentation and dissemination strategy. Additional notes. This activity allows young people to develop skills in communication, design, and teamwork, while learning about the importance of raising awareness of environmental issues in their communities. It is also an excellent opportunity to explore the impact of visual media and social media on environmental education. Chapter 5. Building Sustainable Communities in Post-Conflict Situations. Sustainability can be defined as the ability of an organism to survive within the constraints imposed by its environment. In this sense, a sustainable society is one that not only survives but thrives despite environmental and social constraints. These constraints may include resource scarcity, environmental degradation, and social injustice. A sustainable society is therefore one that uses resources to meet current needs without sacrificing the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The concept of sustainability emerged from the environmental movement, but the definition has broadened to include economic and social issues. There are now 3 interconnected pillars of sustainability: social, economic, and environmental. Conservation organizations have adopted a more holistic approach to addressing the impact of human behavior on the environment. Sustainable development strategies aim to balance economic growth with responsible consumption practices and an equitable distribution of wealth. A sustainable society is a society that can last indefinitely and is able to balance the needs of its inhabitants and the environment. This includes moderate population growth, preservation of the environment, using resources responsibly. The main characteristics of a sustainable society are: it can continue indefinitely without causing any harm to itself or its natural environment. It can exist for more than a few generations without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. It is our duty, as citizens of the world, to ensure that we act in ways that allow us to prosper in perpetuity. It meets the needs of its citizens in an environmentally responsible way. In other words, if a society tries to meet the needs of its citizens in a way that harms the environment, then it is not sustainable. The concept of sustainable communities focuses on creating and maintaining environments where people can live and work in ways that minimize environmental impact, promote social equity, and ensure long-term economic viability. The main idea is that communities should meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The following is an overview of the key components and fundamental principles of sustainable communities. Environment: conservation of natural resources. Efficient and responsible use of resources, such as water, energy, and materials. Emission and waste. Reduction: minimization of pollution and waste production through recycling and the adoption of renewable energies. Biodiversity protection: conservation of natural habitats and promotion of biological diversity. Society: social equity, ensuring equitable access to resources, opportunities, and services for all members of the community, regardless of their origin or status. Community participation: promoting the active participation of citizens in community decision-making and management. Quality of life: promotion of healthy and safe living conditions, including access to health services, education, and adequate housing. Economy: sustainable economic development, promotion of economic activities that are viable in the long term and do not deplete natural resources. Economic resilience: diversification of the local economy, to reduce dependence on specific sectors and improve resilience to economic shocks. Fundamental principles: interdependence, recognition of the interconnectedness of natural and human systems, and the need to address them holistically. Precaution, application of the precautionary principle in the management of natural resources and in the planning of activities that may have significant environmental or social impacts. Innovation and adaptability, fostering technological and social innovation to solve challenges and adapt to future changes. Transparency and accountability, promoting transparency in decision-making and accountability of actors involved in community development. Resource efficiency, minimize the consumption of natural resources such as water and energy, and promote the use of renewable sources. Conservation and biodiversity, protect and restore ecosystems and local biodiversity. Waste and pollution reduction, focus on minimizing waste through reduction, reuse, and recycling programs. Simultaneously, implement measures to control pollution in air, water, and soil. Resilient local economy, fostering the local economy by supporting small businesses, local entrepreneurship, and fair trade. Employment and education, create sustainable employment opportunities and promote education and training in green skills. Equity and social justice, ensuring that all members of the community have access to basic services such as healthcare, education, and housing. Community participation, involving citizens in community decision-making and planning. Social cohesion, fostering a sense of community and belonging, promoting inclusion and diversity. Sustainable transport, promote the use of public transport, bicycles and walking, to reduce dependence on private vehicles and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Green spaces, integrate parks, gardens, and green areas to improve air quality, provide recreational spaces, and increase urban biodiversity. Sustainable construction, using environmentally friendly building materials and energy-efficient construction techniques. Renewable energy, encourage the use of solar, wind, and other renewable energy sources. Water management, implement rainwater harvesting systems, wastewater treatment, and water conservation practices. Educational programs, develop environmental education and sustainability programs for all ages. Awareness campaigns, conduct campaigns to raise public awareness of the importance of sustainability and how they can contribute to it. Smart grids and smart technology, using smart technology to optimize resource use and improve energy efficiency. Green infrastructure, incorporate green infrastructure solutions such as green roofs, green walls, and permeable pavements. Benefits of sustainable communities. Environmental, reduction of carbon footprint, conservation of natural resources, and improvement of air and water quality. Economic, long-term cost savings, green job creation, and local economic development. Social, improving health and well-being, increasing social equity, and strengthening community cohesion. Sustainable communities seek a balance between human development and environmental protection, promoting practices that ensure a viable future for all forms of life. Implementing these practices and principles not only helps to protect the environment, but also improves people's quality of life, creating healthier, more equitable, and resilient communities. However, extrapolating this concept to a post-war situation is not so simple. We cannot forget that after an armed conflict, the population is devastated. Civilians killed, homes destroyed, wounded, maimed, etc. Infrastructures have been totally destroyed, hospitals and schools are not functioning, etc. The post-war situation is a situation of trauma. It is not easy to rebuild an entire country from scratch. It requires strength, resilience, community participation, good governance, etc. Sometimes this is not immediately possible because even the governance of the country is unstructured or non-existent, and there are basic needs to be urgently met. Building sustainable communities in post-conflict situations is a complex challenge that requires a multifaceted approach because of all the difficulties it presents. Therefore, in a post-conflict context, prioritization is paramount, as implementing sustainability principles in such a situation presents significant challenges due to the extreme conditions and urgent needs faced by affected communities. There are some key factors to consider when addressing this complex task. Context of devastation, human impact, The loss of life, maiming, and psychological trauma are profound. Recovery of the population requires immediate medical and psychological care, as well as the restoration of trust and social cohesion. Destruction of infrastructure. Damage to homes, hospitals, schools, and other essential infrastructure prevents the normal functioning of society. The reconstruction of these elements is essential for the restoration of normal life. Immediate needs versus long-term sustainability, addressing basic needs. In the immediate post-conflict phase, urgent needs include food, clean water, shelter, and medical care. These primary needs must be met before long-term strategies can be implemented. Balance between urgency and planning. It is vital to strike a balance between responding to urgent needs and planning for long-term sustainability. Quick fixes must not compromise future development. Community engagement and resilience. Community empowerment. Community participation is crucial for reconstruction. Involving local people in decision-making and reconstruction projects can foster a sense of ownership and responsibility. Resilience building. Building community resilience capacities is essential for dealing with future crises. This includes education, training, and strengthening community support networks. Good governance, rebuilding institutions. In many cases, government and institutions are unstructured or absent. Institutional reconstruction is essential for stability and good governance. Transparency and accountability. Transparency in the reconstruction process and accountability are crucial to avoid corruption and ensure that resources are used properly. Integral and sustainable approach. Integration of sustainable principles. Despite the challenges, it is important to integrate sustainability principles into reconstruction. This may include the use of sustainable building materials, green urban planning, and the promotion of renewable energy. International support. International assistance can play a vital role in providing resources and expertise. Collaboration with international organizations can facilitate the implementation of sustainable practices. In summary, while implementing sustainable communities in a post-conflict situation is a complex challenge, it is possible and necessary. It requires a balanced approach that addresses the immediate needs of the population while laying the foundations for long-term, sustainable, and resilient development. Community participation, good governance, and international support are key elements in achieving this goal. We present some case studies of success stories from around the world. 1. Rwanda. The rehabilitation of Gasaka. Context. After the 1994 genocide, Rwanda faced the challenge of rebuilding its society, healing the wounds of conflict, and establishing a lasting peace. Strategies implemented. Gakaka courts. Traditional community courts called Gakaka were established to deal with crimes of genocide. This allowed for swifter and more communal justice. Umuganda Program, a monthly mandatory community service program that strengthened social cohesion and infrastructure. Sustainable development policies. Investments in education, health, and economic development, with a strong focus on sustainable agriculture and environmental conservation. Results: a significant increase in social cohesion and community trust was achieved. Rwanda experienced remarkable economic growth and human development. Reforestation and natural resource management programs improved environmental sustainability. 2. Bosnia and Herzegovina. The UNDP Community Revitalization Project. Context. After the Balkan War, 1992 to 1995, Bosnia and Herzegovina faced the task of rebuilding divided and devastated communities. Strategies implemented: community infrastructure projects, reconstruction of schools, health centers, and other essential infrastructure. Promoting social cohesion, initiatives to promote peaceful coexistence between different ethnic groups. Local economic development, support for small and medium-sized enterprises, especially in rural areas, to promote economic self-sufficiency. Results: improved basic infrastructure and community services, increased interaction and cooperation between previously conflicting ethnic groups, sustained economic development in rural and urban areas. 3. Colombia, peace process and FARC reintegration. Context. After more than 5 decades of armed conflict, the Colombian government and the FARC signed a peace agreement in 2016. Strategies implemented. Transitory viridal zones, temporary spaces where former FARC combatants demobilized and began their reintegration into civilian life. Reintegration programs, training and support for the labor insertion of ex-combatants. Integrated rural development. Rural development projects to improve living conditions in conflict-affected areas. Results: decreased violence and increased security in rural regions. Creation of economic opportunities for ex-combatants and affected communities. Sustainable initiatives in agriculture and environmental conservation. 4. Sierra Leone. Post-Ebola reconstruction. Context: although not an armed conflict, the Ebola crisis, 2014 to 2016, devastated Sierra Leone in a conflict-like manner, severely affecting its infrastructure and social fabric. Strategies implemented: health system, strengthening, reconstruction and improvement of health facilities, education and awareness programs, campaigns for the reintegration of Ebola survivors, and the elimination of stigma. Economic development initiatives, support for small businesses and agricultural projects to revitalize the local economy. Results: significant improvement in health infrastructure and services. Reduction of the social stigma associated with Ebola survivors. Economic recovery and increased agricultural production. These case studies demonstrate that sustainable community reconstruction in post-conflict contexts is possible, but it requires a multidimensional approach that encompasses justice, social cohesion, economic development, and environmental sustainability. Successful strategies include community participation, reintegration of ex-combatants, rebuilding infrastructure, and building economic resilience.